Hi Philippe, it's nice to have you here for this premiere podcast with LPEA to discuss about GP and tax locally in Luxembourg and generally speaking. So today you have a topic that you have at heart and you would like to discuss with us. What is it about?
First, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here with you guys today to have that nice discussion about the practicalities of working for a private equity firm and to actually talk for a few minutes about the different challenges that you may face while you're on the other side of the mirror.
So Philippe, can you tell us what practical challenges you face and in what areas in today's legislative environment?
So one of them is to actually be able to deal with the increasingly higher amount of tax compliance obligations. And we all know that nowadays you have more and more reports to file, you have more and more tax returns to provide to the tax authorities. We all have in mind the fact that Pillar 2 kicked in and that soon those who are within the rules will also have to file additional tax returns. So the challenge is to actually have the resources that allow you to standardize the processes and to deliver everything to the tax authorities as quickly and efficiently as you can. But this in turn means that you also need somebody on the other side, I mean the tax authorities, who's able to actually respond to you in a way which allows you to minimize the time spent on those obligations. And so, for instance, if you look at the way nowadays you have exchanges of correspondence with the tax authorities, you see that from time to time, well, especially after filing the annual tax returns, that you get a really large volume of letters from the tax authorities, and instead of having a limited amount of paper documents that you deal with, you see that you're actually overwhelmed by the amount, and this is why it may be interesting to develop a solution, not only from the tax authority side, but on a global scale, by working hand in hand with the industry, with the advisors, so as to come to something that can actually help everyone make the process smoother and save time to dedicate that to other tasks.
Absolutely. So there are organizational components, there are environmental components, but there is also tech those days that come and play a large role in how to improve and fast track the resolution of those issues. So what do you see currently that could be interesting for you to implement or for anyone to implement to get to those final results of enhances investors' return, bottom line?
So if I go back to the beginning of the discussion and the dealing with the compliance aspects, I think that the industry, the advisors in Luxembourg, and the tax authorities should work hand in hand to actually enhance the current process so that you can actually have something which is more automated, in the sense that someone at some point should develop a platform that allows the multiple companies that you have in Luxembourg to deal successfully with the volume of data they need to provide to the tax authorities. And to do so, one of the elements that could be considered would be to develop a platform that would be accessible for the players in Luxembourg, where they could deal and manage their, for instance, payment obligations in one centralized place, and not only for corporate taxes, but also for indirect taxes. Because as you know, for now, we have a clear distinction between what is related to VAT, and on the other hand, you have all the aspects which are related to corporate taxes. And so maybe bringing all of that together to have a common platform that can actually allow you to tackle all those issues at the same time would be something that would be very welcome by the industry in Luxembourg, because again, that would save time, and if you save time, you save money.
Absolutely, and we got different dimensions there, right? You got Luxembourg only, you got your investor tax, you got many things that comes together and definitely takes time to address, and potentially this is not where you want to put the focus at the time it comes. And so you are addressing basically some sort of processualization, digitalization of platforms that should come hand in hand with the tax authorities and the private market at the same time. So how do you see that changing your landscape and within your industry, and that would impact both the tax function and other functions?
So I think it's a very good point because, as you just mentioned, it's not only Luxembourg-centric. You also have to cope with other jurisdictions when you're a PE house, because obviously you don't limit yourself to one jurisdiction. And saying that, you also have to keep in mind that it's not only a matter of jurisdictions, but you also have different levels at which you need to deliver certain compliance tasks. So you, of course, have the investors level, you have the level of the entities themselves, and then you have everything that relates to the portfolio companies. And here I believe that what we are all facing nowadays in our daily lives, meaning the development of the AI, is definitely something that will be very helpful for the future and to address all the problematics that I mentioned earlier.
And how do you deal internally with all the different aspects? You mentioned the investors, the portfolio company, obviously the GPs, etc. So how do you handle that internally?
So I would say that this would depend on the business model you want to adopt. So depending on the PE house, you may either internalize everything, and then that means that you have to have large amounts of resources that can deal with all the obligations that may arise at all the levels, or you actually decide to focus on certain aspects. So you can, for instance, decide that you will be managing all the entities that are set up by the house, while delegating whatever is related to the operational companies to your portfolio companies. And there you just need to make sure that you have a really good relationship with them, so that if at some point they need support, they can come back to you and you can lend them a hand to also become efficient and to work in a way which is also beneficial to the PE house. And then on the other hand, you have the investors, and there you need to probably consider whether or not you want to offer some kind of added value to your investors. And one way of achieving that is by, for instance, helping them with their own compliance obligations. Of course, not everyone does it that way because it involves certain costs, it requires certain amounts of resources, and so that's why it's very important at the time of the setup of the fund to consider all those aspects, because that will in turn affect the return you offer to the investors.
That's absolutely true. I think that those two components are key in the life of a GP and tax function, basically handling both the portfolio companies that may have different size, right? I mean, talking to a mid-market company and talking to a large PE house that has just been going through a P2P exercise is totally different. You don't talk the same, and the level of assistance required is not the same. So basically, there is also a question around how do you organize yourself, generally speaking? How do you see the landscape of tax compliance, guys? Is it like only located in Luxembourg? Do you see people being in different jurisdictions where the key reporting jurisdictions are, like say US, Luxembourg, maybe Singapore, Hong Kong? How do you see the landscape evolving, and how is the relations with the tax authorities on a general basis?
I would say that wherever you need a specific reporting which can, for instance, be mandatory, you need to have people on the ground. So that's one thing. And then, of course, as you just mentioned, depending on where you set up your fund structure, then that's another aspect to consider, because there you will probably have lots of entities that needs to be managed. And so that's why you may want also to set up a team that is able to tackle the volume of entities that you may have to deal with. And so what I've been just saying is that you need people locally, but of course you will also need somebody who's able to centralize and have a helicopter view of whatever is happening, to be able to coordinate all the teams in an efficient manner, so that in the end you have a teamwork which delivers efficient solutions.
Philippe, thank you very much for this insight. It was a pleasure having you, and for all of you watching, stay tuned.
Thank you.